This diver was working on an entirely different job when he suddenly discovered a train wagon at the bottom of the ocean. The finding made no sense at first. How was it possible that a train wagon ended up here? But it didn't take long when Matt, the diver in question, found out why it was there. Once he took a look inside, he made a discovery that immediately became important news. But before we start, smash the like button, subscribe, and ring the notifications bell so you never miss our upcoming stories. The ocean air was crisp, and the crew greeted him with polite nods. He wasn't part of their regular team, but exactly the man they needed for the upcoming job. Matt was a sonar specialist and an experienced diver hired to test new underwater mapping equipment. For Matt, this was work, though he enjoyed these thrilling offshore jobs. But nobody could have prepared him for what was coming. Matt's job was to map a rarely explored section of the seabed near a coastal trench. Weeks of bad weather had delayed the operation, and this was their first real window. Matt had spent the morning checking cables and calibrating instruments with which only he was familiar. Everything looked good on paper. Still, the equipment behaved differently in the depths he was planning to dive to. This part of the ocean floor had never been seen by humans before, so who knows what Matt would find down there. But when Matt reached the sandy bottom, he was left speechless. By late morning, the vessel moved slowly into position above the survey site. The team lowered the sonar unit over the side while Matt monitored the data feed in a small control room. He watched grainy outlines form across the screen. Valleys, ridges, silt beds. Then something strange appeared. A long, rectangular shape, sitting flat against the seabed, partly buried in sand. He asked the bridge to slow down and double back over the coordinates. The shape returned, clearer this time. It wasn't shaped like any natural formation Matt had seen before. It was too long to be a standard cargo crate, and the size wasn't right for a small wreck. Back on deck, the team reviewed the sonar image. Someone guessed it could be leftover equipment from an old pipeline project. But Matt had no records of humans ever being down there. The ship's captain leaned over the screen and scratched his head. "That's not normal," he said. It became clear that diving down and having a look was the only remaining option. Around midday, Matt prepared his gear while the sea remained calm. He wasn't nervous, just focused. He had done plenty of dives like this, routine inspections, hull checks, abandoned structures. The difference today was the mystery. Everyone liked finding something new. Before entering the water, he checked his lines, radio, and oxygen levels. Once cleared, he eased himself into the sea and began his descent. As Matt dropped lower, the light faded into a deep green. Visibility wasn't great, but his headlamp cut through the water just enough. He passed small rock formations and patches of smooth sand. The depth gauge ticked higher as the sonar shape came into view. Matt slowed his pace, scanning the area while his camera rolled for the crew above. What they saw shocked everyone. At the bottom of the ocean sat a train wagon. It rested at a slight tilt, but the frame was mostly intact. Thick metal wheels and barnacle-encrusted panels lined the sides, much of it buried under silt. Still, the design was unmistakable. There were no tracks nearby, no coastlines, close enough to explain its presence. Matt moved in, brushing away sand from the side. His flashlight caught something stamped near the roofline. 713. He snapped a photo and sent it up through the feed. On board, someone joked about a ghost train. Matt didn't reply, but once inside, they'd realize how true that comment was. He swam along the side and back of the sunken wagon, searching for an entry point. Eventually, he found a rear door, unbolted, unlike the others. The handle was corroded, sealed to the frame, but Matt had time and tools. Using a high-heat cutter, he melted the corrosion away. With the door freed, he pulled it open slowly. Bubbles escaped as pressure equalized, and the door groaned as it gave way. Inside, the wagon was dim and still. His light swept over rows of metal-framed seats lined with faded red fabric. A narrow aisle divided them. Some windows remained intact, their glass cloudy but unbroken. The floor was stable, untouched by collapse. The space felt eerily preserved, like it had waited all this time to be discovered. Matt couldn't shake the thought of the ghost train joke. The place truly felt like one of those mysterious vessels, fully intact, furnished, yet hauntingly empty. The train wagon felt eerily preserved. In one seat, Matt spotted a suitcase. When he opened it, a baby blue blouse floated out, followed by a sealed plastic bag. Inside the bag were paper documents, still dry. Matt held it up to the camera. The blue ink writing revealed contracts, dated October 12, 1962. It looked as if someone had prepared for the suitcase to survive underwater. It was already the strangest mission of Matt's career, and it was just beginning. He drifted forward through the dim cabin, passing rows of faded seats. The wagon was longer than expected, stretching far into the gloom. Matt checked his dive watch, 20 minutes left. Still no clue why the train was here. He floated farther in, eyes locked on a closed door at the far end, his light fixed on it as he moved closer. Matt reached the closed door and gently tested the handle. It was stiff but not locked. With a firm push, it shifted just enough for him to squeeze through. His light caught a bed and a few empty seats. This area was clearly different. The windows were boarded up from the inside. He paused and noted the change in structure. The space was narrow, and something metallic glinted faintly at the end. Matt steadied his light as he floated toward it, using the cabinet's roof as a guide to push off from. The glinting part was a small plaque bolted to the rear wall. The plaque was etched with a faded layout and showed Matt a detailed diagram of the train wagon. The blueprint layout did not match what he had seen from the outside. There was a break in the flooring of this wagon, followed by an extension deeper into the seafloor. It was like this entire wagon was just the tip of the iceberg, a thing that was hiding a more vast and important metal mass underground. It deepened this already strange mystery. It seemed the train had a hidden section that was never visible in the sonar scan, and the hatch was apparently underneath rows 11 and 12 of the previous cart. Matt checked his gauge again. There were 15 minutes of air left, so he had to move fast if he wanted to find out the truth. His body shifted past rusty suitcase racks and chairs until he finally reached the mentioned rows 11 and 12. Matt ducked and looked at the floorboard, and as the map predicted, there was a hatch located there. Matt tugged at the hatch with both hands until it came loose with a sharp snap. A sudden rush of bubbles escaped into the water, followed by a powerful current of cold seawater pouring down into the space below. He waited a moment before diving lower, letting the water settle. Matt's light swept across the walls, then landed on a row of suits, diving gear, intact and organized. 4 of them stood upright against the wall. Each one had a stitched name tag. He repeated each name aloud quietly. These were scientists who had been stationed down here, possibly for years. Matt wondered what they were doing down here and also how they left, since their suits were all still in this hidden space. Had they been rescued? Or did the sealed hatch mean that they never made it out at all? Matt didn't find any remains yet, so he had no cause to think that this was someone's tomb. He moved deeper into the compartment and found a locker wedged near the back. The door had rusted shut, but one strong pull freed it. Inside were waterproof folders filled with research notes. This wasn't a transport train. It had been repurposed as a sealed research outpost. Matt flipped through the documents, each page adding more weight to the mystery. These were legitimate research logs. There were official seals from marine institutes and even a few hand-drawn illustrations of deep-sea species. The handwriting varied across the documents, evidence of a coordinated effort. This had been a serious operation, organized, funded, and hidden for reasons still unclear. One folder labeled Private held handwritten notes on equipment failures and delayed supply runs. The final pages bore a signature, W. Tucson. Matt froze. The same name stitched into one of the diving suits. Tucson had been here and had left a record. At the bottom of the locker lay a weathered logbook wrapped in plastic. The cover read, Field Notes, W. Tucson, revised entry. It was too risky to open underwater, so Matt decided to bring it back intact. His oxygen was down to 5 minutes, Time was up. Securing the logbook, Matt floated back through the silent train. The seafloor stretched out before him, unchanged. His body felt heavier now, and not from the gear. He followed the line back to the surface, slow and steady. The final ascent pushed Matt's air supply to the limit. He reached the research vessel just in time, lungs burning. Still breathless, he held up the sealed logbook, proof of something no one was meant to find. Once dry and out of his gear, Matt retreated to the captain's cabin and opened the notebook. Inside was the full story. The first entry introduced Walter Tucson, the team leader and author. Tucson explained that he and his crew were scientists tasked with studying deep-sea heat currents, vital to understanding global warming. The site was chosen for its unique oceanic activity. Their lab, funded and hidden by the government, had to remain undisturbed. To disguise it, a reinforced train wagon was lowered onto the seafloor, sealed tight to serve as a cafeteria and sleeping quarters. But then came disaster. One page ended ominously, but then everything went horribly wrong. A seam in the train structure, meant to hold for a decade, failed without warning. During breakfast, it gave way, water flooding the cabin in seconds. The team barely made it beneath the internal hatch, escaping the crushing pressure. Tucson and his crew were stuck in their science lab beneath the ocean floor until the water pressure above equalized. But this instantly ended their stay. They had no food below the hatch, nor enough space to sleep or shower. Once the water pressure regulated itself, they made a daring escape. Oxygen tanks, which provided breathable air throughout the entire research facility, were also damaged by the sudden pressure of rushing water, so they lost oxygen quickly. Their diving suits were useless too, since they were connected to those same oxygen tanks with 20-meter-long cables. They needed to get to the surface, to safety. So, only one solution remained. Matt read the logbook in disbelief. According to this book, Walter Tucson and his colleagues swam all the way to the surface with nothing but the clothes on their backs. They apparently floated up a piece of hardwood flooring with them and hoped for the best. Every crew member on board the Orion listened to this heartbreaking story with tears in their eyes. The mystery of what lay on the bottom floor was now finally answered, and the crew of the Orion scanned the rest of this part of the ocean using Matt's equipment. Matt wanted to find out if Walter and his crew made it to land alive and well. He and the Orion crew searched for weeks in databases and through other official government agencies. Eventually, they got a hit. Walter Tucson and all of his crew members made it out alive and well. They were now back home and living a healthy life. Matt was even allowed to call Walter once to share with him that he had found their lab. It was an emotional phone call during which I commended the man's bravery. Hearing the voice of this brave man who went through all that and came out the other end is beyond comprehension. I just wanted him to know that his name will always be remembered. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and ring the notifications bell so you never miss amazing tales like this one.